50 locations. Well, they can use Whisk because they have invoices, recipes. We connect with their POS. We help them with their actual theoretical. So our main mission is just to give restaurateurs their time back so they can focus on the things they actually love. That's what we strive to do. And we do that by like all these little things, and we try to help streamline each piece of that pie. But the ultimate goal is, how do we give them back their time? How do we lower their cost of goods so really they can have more money in their pocket? And that's essentially what we do. One little thing we're working on, at least beta testing with some clients, is Whisk audio inventory. So really simple idea. The idea is that you just walk around, right? In the perfect world, it'd be with your meta glasses and video and audio. But because that's more complicated to process video, we're like, let's start with audio. So the idea is super simple. You walk around your stock room and you're like, hey, I got 10 cans of Unico tomato sauce, 500 ml. I got 5. As you just speak out loud. The key is we train them on how to speak. Don't just say like, I got tomato cans, say the size, say the brand, whatever. But the idea is in Whisk, because we already do a lot of the inventory management stuff where we scan their invoices, we create their items, whatever, we'd basically be matching that audio transcript to the items we created from their invoices and complete their inventory. So the idea would be like, imagine just talking through your inventory. Yeah. We take that audio file, match the invoices, and send them that inventory report. So that's phase one. Phase two is we'd love to do like a video, same exact concept, but you're just walking and talking out loud. But the cool thing is there's that kind of audit. So if someone's like, wait, how do we only have 2 cases of avocado? It would like cut back to that snippet of video and be like, yeah, wait, there was 10. Why did you say 2? So there's like almost a video playback.
Right. Or it sounds like you could potentially partner with a Savvy or somebody that's got cameras on the business.
Even better.
And they would have whether it's computer vision or just a view of that storage area, and the timestamp would then be, say, that person walked into the zone, started counting. Even and then when that person walked out of the zone, the count was done at that moment in time. That is what the assumed is. Although, you know what, like devil's advocate, right? Cool. I counted it. My variance is off. All right. And the only thing we knew is what I said, not what was actually there. So there's that confirmation part is something that was probably a sticky point there.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've been testing it. For us, it's more important on the food side, because on the beverage side, for those who don't know, Whisk has a database of 200,000 bottles and the barcodes and the images and the weight. So for now, it's still faster to just generally scan, count units or cases or weight on a Bluetooth scale if it's open. But for food, because a lot of the times there's a lot of different units of measurement and whatever, we've been kind of testing it out, and it's been well received so far. So we'll see where it heads. But so far it's been a nice little, I guess, easier way to maybe get your inventory in, especially when dealing with people on the culinary side. Chefs. I love chefs to death, but they're artists. They're special to deal with. So it's whatever you can do to try to make their lives easier is always appreciated.
so yeah, and I know we're going to start a show at some point, I imagine.
Yeah.
But this is all the fun, the rolling start. But so Whisk has a set of integrated tools that help perform the function when it comes to counting, or to your more to the point of bar measures. Those are challenging because it has to typically weight or volume, right?
Correct. Exactly.
And so, do you have your own proprietary scale? Like, how do you go? Is it a Whisk,
good question.
Manufacturer scale?
So as of now, we integrate with a few. This is one of them. It's not our own scale. We integrate with a few Bluetooth enabled ones. I think there's like 3 different versions. We usually just give the clients a link directly to Amazon, so it's pretty affordable. And there's no pairing or anything. As soon as you turn it on, Bluetooth is on your phone, and you're using the Whisk app, it'll connect. So it's pretty nice. What is proprietary is our database. So like when we started Whisk, believe it or not, I may have told you this, maybe not, but I used to go in with my business partner at the time and weigh bottles at some of our friends' nightclubs or bars at the end of the night, just to start building the database. And then I befriended a retail store owner, and I'd go in on Sundays and weigh all the like common vodkas and gins. So at least I could have a starting point. But then where the magic happened was when we started getting more and more restaurants using Whisk or bars. It was kind of a crowdsourced database. So that's when the database started growing, But in the early days, I was like, okay, what do I need? I need my Tito's vodka, my Jack Daniels, my Johnny Walker. Give me all the common stuff so I can at least look like we know what we're doing. And that's how the database started.
Well, you know what? I'm going to start here. Guys, welcome. You might have been coming in, joining us. We started doing this, what I call the rolling start intro to our podcast. We just start talking and figure out what comes of it.
Yeah.
Our guest today is Mr. Angelo Esposito with Wisk AI. I won't describe it too much because you're going to figure out in the course of this conversation all the great things that Wisk does. But what I do know is that it is ran by a fantastic person. Angelo, you're somebody that lifts others up. I love that about you. I think one of the things that, or actually what we've mentioned right when we hopped on the call, was how much we value you in the industry and the fact that you were one of the first stops that gave us our start. And that is such an important thing, especially as people try to get their name out there. And some people go, what the hell is podcasting about? You have that, right? Like, oh, you're just trying to be a celebrity, or it's your own glorification, right? But watching you, I learned some things from you. And watching, I learned how to be a good host. I learned that the questions are more important than what you have to say. Like, I'm breaking a rule right now because everything I'm saying is important to what you're about to say.
No, you're spot on though, right? Ask the right questions and let the guests speak. And there's so much, like, think about how much knowledge you have, right, that you've learned over the years, and that I may have learned over the years. So that's what I love about having guests on, is like, there could be 20, 30, 40 years of experience in that brain, and you're just trying to let them express and share that wisdom. And my whole vision is always like, hey, it's great to learn from your own mistakes, and that's how we learn as humans, but it's also cool to learn from other people's mistakes when you can. And that's at least my inspiration behind it, is like, share the knowledge, right?
Absolutely. And I do want to talk about Wisk as a product and what you guys do, and the brands that you help. But we've been talking to teams lately that are trying to figure out, LinkedIn, that's why do I go there? I can just make some phone calls. Or why would I stand up a podcast? Other things that are unconventional approaches to businesses, I think would be a fun conversation for the three of us to have, because you're an entrepreneur in every sense of the word. Chad knows how to look at good ideas and bring them to life, right? And I'm absolutely insane, and somehow all that works together. But the jokes aside, right? There's some decisions you made when you started Wisk, right? And let's talk about your decision to do the podcast and what you really sought out of that, and then tell me some of the learnings and the surprises along the way. Because I think everybody would be interested to know that. Yeah,
it's a really good question, actually. I don't think I've ever been asked that.
I learned from the best. So.
No, it's a good one, honestly. Because when I started, funny enough, I kind of got a bit of pushback from some of our investors, because it's kind of like, especially at that time, was like, what, you got to focus on the business. Like, what are you trying to do with this other kind of side project? It's almost like, this is a distraction. And I kind of saw a bit ahead, which I think most entrepreneurs do. So if you are an entrepreneur, follow your gut. Investors are great and they might have good advice, but there's a reason they chose this is their path to be an investor. You chose your path to be an entrepreneur. So you did choose that path. So there is something there to be said. But having said that, at the time I figured, okay, the goal was simple. I said, I'm going to just focus on if I can get guests on, not expect anything out of it, and just share knowledge. So the biggest lesson I learned when I first started the podcast, and then I got maybe 10 episodes in, and then things got delayed, and maybe 6 months later I re-picked it up. But I learned a lesson at that time. And the lesson was I was a bit too focused on the what people would think, or how was that episode, or whatever. And instead I had a shift. And then my shift was, okay, you know what? Let me restart this podcast. Let me continue it. But this time I'm just going to focus on pure output. My goal is I want to do one podcast a week for the next year. And so I shifted my mentality from judging myself on how many likes I got on the podcast, how many subscribers, especially in the beginning. It might be disheartening when you got 2 listeners on Spotify. So, but don't worry, if people are listening, there's hope. But what I've noticed is if you shift your mentality from, instead of judging myself on likes or plays, I'm just going to judge myself on my ability to be consistent. For me, that could be one podcast a month, one a week. For me, it was one a week. And when I changed that, I started building a process on how to reach out to the guests, how to get someone on, how to script some questions. And that's where it started building a bit of momentum. And I kind of forgot about and I just focused on the output. Can I get one podcast a week? And that's where the magic happens. So in a weird way, when I stopped thinking about the likes or this or that, I just said, hey, I just want to get to 50 podcasts this year. Let's see if I can do it. By accident, I ended up building a really good process with my team, getting better and better guests over time. And then ultimately just getting better at podcasting. So that's the other lesson, is just do more of the thing and you will get better. So like just repetition. And then that's where the magic started happening. And so I would say like after a year of that, that's where I started realizing there are all kinds of side effects. So number one, pillar content that I was able to slice up and dice up and share with people, and then turn that into newsletters and build a list of, now we have 25,000 subscribers on our newsletter, and get YouTube subscribers and be active on LinkedIn. And then the really cool side effect that ended up being like, I wasn't thinking about day one, was like getting customers. And, some people might say like, oh, it's a great way to get customers. It makes sense now. It's like obvious. But back then I genuinely didn't do it to be like, oh, I think I can close a client if I get them on the podcast. I really went with the intention of, I want to get through 50 podcasts. I want to get interesting people on. And over time, as the audience was mixed, tech people, these type of people, whatever, restaurant people, every once in a while I'd have a restaurateur, an owner, an operator. And because we're speaking for an hour, we would end up talking about Wisk and whatnot. End up having a side conversation about like, hey, I'll show you how it works if you're interested. And a couple of those ended up leading to like actual clients. So that was like a really cool side effect. So I think that's maybe just the lesson I learned is, number one, focus on the output in the beginning. That output and repetition will, number one, give you clarity and give you experience. And then number two, once you have a more clear vision of what's going on, you could be more practical and tactical, I guess, about what you want. And for me, that's led to just growth in, I guess, the restaurant community, but also some new Wisk clients, which has been really kind of a cool side effect.
Angelo, I want to ask you, because yes, we would have assumed, yes, that even early on that you would have understood that like having these guests, right, you could get clients. However, what you didn't mention, what I also expect you to mention, is like, but it has to be true, insights, ideas you got from your guests that you applied to your business, your product, your leadership style, etc. What are some specific things you got from kind of the specific conversations and that's valuable to you?
Yeah. So great point. Because there's so much you learn from talking to other people. And it's like, if you think about, let's say when you go to a conference and you meet with people and you leave there inspired and you learned XY from person A, or maybe a little speech over here or whatever, right? There's a lot you take. Imagine doing that on a weekly basis, right? So like it's a really cool experiment, because it's like you meet with someone weekly, they're coming from a different perspective, and you end up learning a bunch of stuff. So some stuff that come to mind, for example, how to delegate effectively, how to think about scaling restaurants, how to think about, I had a good episode with, a ton of good ones, but a good one that comes to mind was with Rev. You guys obviously know Rev, and a bunch of marketing stuff. And like, it was really cool to just see how like he has this ability to simplify everything, which I think was also a lesson. Like, not everything has to be so complex. He's just like, listen, you want to capture leads? Start doing this today. Hey, you want to start doing this today? Like, the way he was able to just spit out real ideas that are just super tactical really kind of inspired me. So definitely all kinds of different people on the show, but it's really cool to see the different perspectives of how people think, how they've grown their companies, challenges they've had. Some have been, VC backed, some have been in bootstrap, some have been smaller restaurant groups of 5 locations, some have been, like example, spoke with David Bloom from Capriotti's, a couple hundred locations. So you end up getting like really different perspectives. And I think to me that's exciting, because it really shapes your mind when you talk to these people. And sometimes it might be just a slight, variation of what they're saying, but applying it to your industry, and it ends up being super valuable.
It almost feels a little bit, just hearing you say that, example, my dad was a restaurateur. He owned a bar in Long Beach, California. My dad was he's a German. He came to America when he was a kid, very thick German accent. Okay. And he's the greatest lesson that people adopt the traits of the people they hang around with, because his regulars at the bar had German accents, and none of those guys are from Germany. You're around him so much.
That's awesome.
They had German accents. And my point is that we all make friends, and as we make friends, we take on their mannerisms. We take on that one aha, or that little statement, or you look back at all these little things that compose who we are linguistically, as from our gestures, etc. It's components from our mom, our dad, our friends, and the people around us.
It's so true.
I think there's something really special about being in the middle of something like what you are and what we're fortunate enough to be in, is that we will take on aspects of all these great people
Yes.
that are around us. I think that's the absolute massive. It's not a gesture. It's some pieces of wisdom. It's things that will conventionally move us forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Who do you like out there? Like what podcast, like where do you draw your inspiration from? Like, is it like the Alex Hormozis of the world? Do you go down the road to the Gary Vees? Like where do you spend your time? Who gives you your,
it's a good one.
That?
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, early days of Gary Vee, I liked. I still like Gary Vee. It's just like I don't
okay,
get
Gary. Don't worry, he still loves.
I still love him. He's great. I love what he does. I just personally don't get as much value as I did in the early days. So I think like he's good. Obviously, he's smart because he's doing, he's got a ton of companies investing, so he knows what he's doing. So people that say he's just a hype man, it's like, no, he can actually back it up. Right. But over time, it was great. I think I had some good learnings from him. And example, top of the funnel stuff and how to slice and dice. I learned that from Gary Vee. Like he had a whole deck that he shared about like pillar content. Like film a 1 hour episode and then cut that and post on these 22 channels and turn an audio clip and a video clip and whatever. So even some of that early stuff I really took away from him. But I actually, funny enough, transitioned more to Hormozi. I like Hormozi because I do find it's a little more tactical for my style.
He's a marketer, right? I mean,
it's just like I can listen to a podcast of Hormozi and really come away 2-3 like just practical, like, oh, that makes sense. I should review my pricing, and oh shit, high ticket makes sense. Maybe I should have a high ticket offer, or hey, I never really thought about guarantees. Maybe I should, like, just like really tactical, like even just reading. If people haven't read it, if you're in business, buy $100 million leads, buy $100 million offers. One is how to make an offer so irresistible people can't say no, and then the other one is how to get leads. But like, so just really practical. So definitely, I'm a fan of that, and I do find his podcasts and even his YouTube videos are really good. So that's up there. But, I also listen to some of our friends in the industry, right? Like whether it's you guys, whether it's Sean Walchef, whether it's, there's so many guys, even I'm trying to think, who else is on the list? I mean, pretty much I'm
a big fan of Justin Ulrich for industry people. If anybody's listening and they don't know, right? Sean Walchef, Rev.
Rev has a good
Zach
one.
Oates, fantastic.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I do like Justin Ulrich. In fact, I stole from his playbook shamelessly when we got, like, I was like, wow, this is a great post show sheet, right? Like his email wasn't just, here's what we're going to do. Here's the content. Here's how to use it to get the most squeeze out of the juice here, or just juice for the squeeze. Yeah. Try to reverse it, right?
Yeah.
He was educational in the output, and that only benefited him because I would get that out there more and disseminate it for him. Yes. Super smart.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I love that. Troy Hooper, that's what I was thinking of.
Yes.
I was like, Pepper Lunch. Troy, but
the king of pepper what? No, yeah. And by the way, shout out to Troy. Did you go by that pickleball thing he did?
Yes, the RLC was great.
Oh my God.
A lot of people, right?
Dude, literally, it was the biggest event I've seen at RLC as part of an event that was just, it was like, if you weren't there, you're wrong. Sorry.
Or you like golf, because there was a lot of people golfing. Yeah, unless you love golf, then yes, I think that was probably the place to be.
Even loving golf, knowing that I could have been around 300 awesome people versus 4 dudes in a cart.
Fair enough.
Sorry, but yeah. So, Chad, you had some really strong opinions on that.
It's on the event. It's the networking event, right? Because but it's also really fun, and I think really cool for me was realizing the story of that event, because it went from, hey, the Pepper Lunch team showing up big when the event was putting it on officially, to, hey, maybe you guys want to own this thing, or produce it, and they took and ran with it in like no time. This is like the Pepper Lunch thing with 300 people there, and who knows what it's going to be there next year. But I thought it was so good. It's like, I got to try this sport. I had never done it.
Did you get up and try it?
I've done it twice now. We have a spot locally, so
very cool.
One good exercise, but first chance to actually play the game of pickleball. It's really good.
It's been growing in popularity like crazy. Where I live over here, I think we have 1 or 2 courts, and they just petitioned to convert one of the. I think we have a ton of tennis courts, but they just petitioned to convert one more of the tennis courts into pickleball. So it seems like there's a lot of demand. This year I just attended, so I just kind of showed up and hung out. But next year I think it'd be cool to actually play. So
Yeah, I think next level. Who's going to have probably sponsored teams?
Yeah,
right. Like there's whole like Troy, you are a genius. I'll put that out there. Right, the music you had there, engaging content, little side court for people that weren't in the mix. Like even when we're talking about going, like that one's all booked up. That one's probably booked up. You're going to be on standby, but I beg and still hang out and network at pickleball. And so everybody went there. Like sorry, it's Talk the Town. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was well done.
And totally as a marketer, I know we value like how do I get people in a room? How do I make it fun where they want to stay? And how do I make it to where they want to talk about it afterwards? I think he nailed it there.
Yeah, totally agree.
So what like, and we will get into what you do at some point.
Yeah, no worries.
We may never get there.
This is fun. This is fun.
Cool. But I like picking your brain because you're very creative and you're super smart and you're also very tactical, right? Like you put together that event with Sean Walchef, right? There it was, I guess you want to call it the influencers event in Vegas. What was that called? What'd you do? What was the name of it?
Yeah, the Rising Tide. We decided to do an in-person Rising Tide event of Wisk and Cali barbecue. Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. There were people like Monty Silva there. There were, I mean, literally all the faces and names we like to see on Rising Tide.
Yeah,
it was really cool to see everybody together.
It was a really cool turnout. It was one of those things where like I wanted to do something, but I'm like maybe it's too last minute. The Barn Restaurant Expo was like 2 weeks away. It's too close. And so like I reached out to a few people and I was getting like mixed, like maybe. And then I called Sean and he's just like, yep. I'm like, did he understand what I said? I'm like, do you think I should? Yep. He didn't even hesitate. Let's do it. I'm in. Let's do it.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, but like no hesitation. So then it gave me confidence. We started inviting people, put up a landing page. We'll be like, okay, listen, we're going to host it. We're going to pay for the drinks. Like, I don't think we'll get more than 20 people. It's fine. And then people signed up. We're like, oh shit. Okay. Let's increased to 30 or 40. In the end, it was like 50 plus people. But what really made it cool was not just the amount. It was just like it ended up being like a really fun event, and like even the people who came ended up telling myself or Sean like, hey, thanks for organizing that. It was really like good quality. And then to your point, you were there, Monty Silva was there, Jason Brooks, Sean Walchef, like David Scott Peters, Matt Platt came by. Like, It was just like a solid, even Zach Oates stopped by. So it was like, we're joking around. Rev was there. And so we're joking around and people were like, Ange, or Sean as well, but like people that spoke to me were like, Angelo, like, how'd you get all of LinkedIn in one room? And I'm like, honestly, I didn't think this would happen, but I guess it just did. And a big part was definitely Sean as well. So shout out Sean for encouraging me to push it and collaborating with me. But that's another lesson. Like sometimes, I guess to give a quick lesson to link it to the podcast question and then to this is the irony of sometimes the things that are very hard to track ROI end up being the best things. And so like the podcast and that happy hour were two things that led to like a ton of ROI. But if I had to present that on paper, it'd be hard to present it day one. It's just like after you do it, you're like, oh my God, I'm so happy I did that.
Yeah, what's the KPI you'd present to your client if it was a client engagement or something like that?
Exactly.
Like, warm and fuzzies. Building goodwill, marketing spend, but undefined attribution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So can I go quickly? I want to following up. So the whole subject of social selling, you're good at it. You got the podcast to take it up even a level further. What kind of encouragement or pressure or whatever you want to call it do you visit on your team to say, you guys, come on, let's go?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, look, the way I see it is like, I think it's to everyone's benefit to get good at selling, period. Social selling even better, but like it's everyone's benefit. And so when I say to my team, it's like, guys, it's not just for Wisk, it's for yourselves. Like if one day you're not at Wisk, you want to do your own thing, you want to work somewhere else, like it's for you. Like your skill set went up, like you are worth more now, like, on paper or on salary, whatever, because you have more skill sets, like you're increasing your skills. So to me, I think it's important no matter what. And I've encouraged my team to not be shy. Like I even told them, like, yes, okay, behind the scenes, like I'm somewhat of the face because yes, I have the podcast, whatever. But I'm like, guys, I'm not like a crazy guy here that like I have to be the face. You guys want to do some clips or do some product demos, send it my way. Our video team will edit it up, we'll chop it up, we'll post it. Like, so that's one thing I've been encouraging and my team to do. And I do think you're right. Like, how do you get the rest of the team involved in like hosting a webinar, talking about the product, whatever it may be, and then maybe using that as content too. And I think it helps to not always see, the same face on maybe that company's social. So I'm a big fan of like encouraging the team. And it's a fine line because I find sometimes it's tough because people, you got to step outside of your comfort zone. And I think as a founder, you're more willing to do it. Sometimes as an employee, you're a little more reluctant because you're like, I'm happy where I am. I don't want to do that. But I would encourage people listening, if you are like, step outside your comfort zone and good things generally happen.
Some companies go the reverse. They say you can't post anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Employee.
It's true.
At least you're not doing that.
No, it's true. No, we believe like, why not? Like most of the cool thing is most of our employees were either in the industry or some of them even have used Wisk and then ended up being so that's kind of the cool thing. So we kind of have like a good track record where, like, example, one of our sales leaders, she used to manage a couple restaurants and she used to use Wisk, and then now she works at Wisk. So it's like, it's pretty neat. Same thing with another sales guy, same thing with some of our customer success reps. But I find actually head of support, she used to use Wisk, knew it inside out. So when we hired her for support, it was so nice because she knew the product inside out because she was using it at like their hotel or whatever. It was like a big hotel. So she knew even like the edge cases of Wisk, of like all these weird scenarios. Anyways, all this to say, I think there is a lot of positive things that can happen when you do hire someone, either that's from industry or that's from, familiar with your product in some capacity.
It feels like the advent of COVID drove LinkedIn to a different place, right? We have communities that exist virtually now.
Yeah.
And that we can nurture and take care of those communities beyond the trade show, because we only have a few minutes of finger gun, and then after that it's up to these connections. It's not the phone call every now and then, it's the seeing each other's feeds. Oh, Angelo's out there doing his thing, like click. And I think there's I don't know about you guys. I sit here 20 hours a day, right? And my social, in some ways, are through LinkedIn, but it's also specific to meaningful business engagements. And I think the work-life balance thing is an odd statement. I'd say it's just life, and you work in there, and the balance is up to you.
Yeah.
An entrepreneur, you can't say you work too many hours, because an entrepreneur will say, nobody's coming to save me. I'm going to do that, but I got to go spend time with my family. But the same note, everybody's working all day. And why wouldn't we have a small window open to have a conversation with a peer that's at another company that may or may at some point be that we can benefit or that we can benefit from? Why wouldn't we build the tribes and the tides to do these things, right? It makes a lot of sense. And I've watched some folks struggle going, wow, I don't know how to get in the industry or have the conversations I'm looking for, or I don't know anybody, right? Like there's people that are coming in that I see even right now coming into our industry, and they're kind of scratching their heads, and I'm not even sure how I used to do it. Like I would go out and I'd, hey, my name's Michael Beck, like to meet you. Here's my business card. Let's talk sometime. And then some moment in infinite space, I decide to call them or they decide to call me, and there's no real, hey, here's another moment, an opportunity. Like, so we have these opportunities all day long to stimulate engagement.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one thing that's interesting about like people who want to get involved. So if you're listening and you're like, oh, I want to get more involved or whatever, it's like, I learned this, just like people are nicer than you think, at least in the hospitality space, from my experience. Like, just be kind, and generally people are pretty receptive. Like I've been pretty nice to you, you've been pretty nice to me. Like I met Sean Walsh for the first time. He was super kind. When I met Troy, like most of these guys are like just pretty nice guys. Like Chad's an awesome dude. Like
they genuinely find out how they can help you too. Like you don't know anybody here, let me introduce you around, right?
Yeah. And so like I think just bring that element of just the human connection. Like not everything has to be like, again, going back to that ROI, not everything is just like an ROI today. Like it's okay. It's all good. It's like we're having a conversation and it might happen later, and then you connect the dot and you're like, oh, I just thought of something. I got to connect Beck with this guy so it's fine. It's not like, okay, today, what can I do? I need Beck because of X, Y. It's like, just be fluid, talk to people, be genuine, and you'd be surprised. And a good example is like at the happy hour event that we hosted in Vegas, I met Meredith, her last name's slipping me, but the one that's in charge, she's part of the signage company.
Oh, no.
The DSA signage company.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she's super well known in the industry, like knows everyone, knows the Rev, knows everyone. But it was the first time I met her, and she was super kind, and she's like, oh, I'm crashing your thing. I'm sorry. I'm like, no, you're not crashing. This is what it's for. It's made to like, this is what we want. We want people in the industry to mingle. Anyways, long story short, super kind, super nice. And then she was one of the ones amongst a few others that kind of pushed me over the edge in a positive way to show up to RLC. And because she has so many industry connections, she was also just super kind with me, and for no reason, and I was like, I'm super grateful to her.
You're not talking about Janice or show over DSA?
No, but I also know I met her there. But I met Janice through her, but it's her name's Meredith.
Okay.
And Meredith was super kind. And like, even when I was there, she was just like making intros. She's like, oh, you guys should meet Angelo. And like, we met in Vegas and we only met a few weeks before that. And so all this to say, Meredith, shout out and thank you. But like, people are pretty kind. And it's like, I guess just like, yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see the human spirit sometimes just like genuine. And like, if I can help back, that's my mentality. It's like, I don't, speaking of Gary Vee, one thing he said that I always liked was like, I don't want to be the tallest building because I tear down everyone else's building, right? Like, I want to be the tallest building just because I'm working hard or whatever, fine. But, and that's my mentality too. It's like, I want other people to succeed. It's not like I want to be better, so how can I keep things to myself? It's like, no, I want everyone to succeed, and I'll just work hard on myself to try to do what I need to do, but it's not at the expense of anyone else, right?
So, Angelo, you've fallen into my trap. And I set this trap for you because I didn't want to talk about your product until people can know who you are.
I like that. You're like, sucker, you fell
Sucker, he's a good guy. He's somebody you want to talk to. He's super helpful. He's got servant leadership written all over him. And what the thing about servant leadership is, if they say they are, they're not. He wouldn't say it, so he is. No, golden seal of approval, Angelo. Everything you just said up to that moment just made it congruent with who you actually are. And now I'd like to talk about what you do, because now people will say, well, shit, I want to do business. Beep. Joe, beep that out. I just thought Angelo, it was a late night show.
Angelo beat you to it. You were not the first to drop a swear on this show.
Did I? I was just going to say now. But
anybody that's at the RLC show is probably got to modify their lexicon due to Mark Wahlberg's stream of F-bombs during the keynote.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but no, let's talk about Wisk though. Like, so
sure.
Wisk, you're a inventory counting and control system, right? And is cost of goods is part of that? You have the reporting.
The main. I guess the easier way to put it, we like in the industry, people usually use the word inventory management system.
Yeah.
What I find annoying, but it's just the way the industry is when they say inventory management, they mean cost of goods, because they're like inventory management. So you connect with my POS, right? And I can put my recipes, and you can, and they're like, okay, cost of goods. But yes, the short version of Wisk. Wisk started off very heavy on the beverage side.
Yep.
Started off with just the inventory counting. So how can I count physical bottles and figure out what's left inside using a Bluetooth scale? And then over the years, after building a database of 200,000 bottles, people were like, this is great. I can count faster, but I would love to get my actual and theoretical and my variances. So we had ended up integrating with their point of sale systems and recipe management and invoicing and all that. So it got to the point where we basically were able to handle all the beverage cost of goods really, really well. So inventory, ordering, receiving, recipes, sales, all that good stuff, and get them their losses and all that. And it's great. It's what we do really well. And then the last few years, maybe the last 5 years at this point, so I guess not that new anymore, COVID hit. Yes, all restaurants were screwed, but by default that meant we were screwed too, because we only worked with restaurants and bars. And specific at that time, because we were very beverage, liquor, wine, beer focused, most of those clients were really closed. So think about bars and full service restaurants or fine dining. The only restaurants that were open were maybe QSR fast casuals that were doing curbside pickup and takeout. So for us at the time, we're like, okay, we got to pivot or die. So we pivoted we added food.
That sounds like a video game. Pivot or die.
It was basically that. It was like pivot or die. So we launched the food side, and it was a blessing in disguise. At the time, it was hard because food was very different than the liquor, wine, beer side. But fast forward 5 years later, it's nice because it's allowed us to kind of grow our market size and just work with venues that don't even have alcohol. So we can work with, as an example, a shawarma location that has 50 locations. Well, they can use Wisk because they have invoices, recipes. We connect with their POS. We help them with their actual theoretical. So the short version now, to summarize all that, is food and beverage management. And our main mission is just to give restaurateurs their time back so they can focus on the things they actually love. That's what we strive to do. And we do that by like all these little things, and we try to help streamline each piece of that pie. But the ultimate goal is, how do we give them back their time? How do we lower their cost of goods so really they can have more money in their pocket? And that's essentially what we do.
Angelo, one of the pieces is inventory management gets at this fact that I think I saw on your site somewhere. Correct me if the number's wrong or updated from now. Is $20,000 ish average restaurant in wasted inventory per year. Is that the right figure, first of all?
Depending on the size and sales of the restaurant, it could even be much higher. But on the beverage side, so think liquor, wine, beer, the average is about 20% shrinkage from overpouring spillage theft. So the way to think about it is 1 out of 5 drinks are going missing or unaccounted for, not being punched in, which I know is a really high number, but it's something that's kind of, that's the fascination, or that fascinated me about the hospitality space, is if you were Best Buy and 1 out of 5 iPads went missing, somebody's getting fired pretty fast, right? But the issue is with restaurants, and I'm sure you guys will get this because you're in the space, but it's like, as much as it's retail, they act more like a manufacturer, because as a restaurant, you're buying raw materials, alcohol, whatever, or food, and you're putting things together, hamburger, vodka martini, forecasting production. So in a weird way, it's like, it's really hard. So people don't realize, it's like, you're not just buying, like, it's easy if you're buying a Modelo, selling a Modelo, but when you're selling finished products in like cocktail or a dish, it becomes really hard to manage. And so that's where I think, like, on the beverage side, it's about 20% shrinkage. On the food side, I think it's closer to 30 if I'm not mistaken. But on the food side, it's less about like the over, serving. It's more about the wastage. So on food, there's a lot of waste because of inaccurate ordering or forecasting, and all the items are generally perishable. So like, oops, I ordered too much beef. Well, guess what? Like, that's probably gonna go in the garbage. If it's a
prep item, if you have bad line folks that are doing poor trimming, there's too
portioning.
Much, the yields are poor, right?
Yeah, those are the two biggest things. It's just pure wastage and the portioning, and the over ordering generally account for like the majority of the waste on the food. The beverage is less about over ordering because there's still money for cash flow to optimize that, but it's
beverages don't go bad though.
Exactly. So it's not the end of the world. It's just, man, now I got cash sitting on my shelf. At least I won't order the garbage. It's still not great, but it's not as bad of a mistake as over ordering chicken, for example.
What's the biggest area of waste and loss that relative to how easy it is to fix it if you have the right solution or you do the right thing? I mean, 'cause people like easy, fast, they're busy. So
look, if
it's not
if you
about
want,
the fossil, what can you get done quickly?
Yeah, so if you want to do something quickly, if you're a full service restaurant or a bar, because we'll also talk about QSRs and fast casuals, but if you're a full service restaurant, I would start with the beverage side because it's easier than food in many aspects. So like definitely I would start there, and usually there's a lot more profitability to be made on the beverage side. So it probably makes sense to tackle that because you can recoup a lot of money and then you can focus on the food. So I'd say number one, if you're doing food and beverage, focus on beverage first because there's big opportunity. And then specifically, if you want to start with something, this is where Pareto's principle comes in. Usually 20, your top 20 items, even less realistically, will account for the majority of your losses. So
what principle?
Pareto's principle.
Pareto's principle. Definition, please.
Yeah, so basically it's the 80-20 rule. It's basically the idea that 20% will account for the 80, or you could do the inverse too.
He stole it from Warren Buffett. I'm totally kidding. It sounds like Warren Buffett stole it from him. Anyway.
Yeah, no, but basically the idea is, and that rule applies to many things, but in this case, it's like, hey, if you take your top 20 products, it'll probably account for 80% of your losses, right?
Yep.
It's rare that like you lost a bit of every single alcohol you sell. It's probably like, you look at, in this case, probably even less, probably your top 10 items, your main vodka, your main gin, and like you take your top 5-10 items, it's probably going to be the majority of your losses. So to answer your question, I would say you focus on that. You say, hey, and in Wisk we have something called the partial audit, so you can say, you know what, I'm just going to track my top 5 items, and by tracking those top 5 items, you can get the variance of those 5 items, see where you're losing money, hone in on that, and you could probably make the biggest impact with the least amount of work.
What are the surprises you see when you work with customers? Is it some just don't count and you're trying to get them to count? Is it that they haven't costed out their menu yet and they don't even know what's profitable and what's not? Like, what are the things that you see that go, man, what the heck?
Yeah, so there's less and less people that don't count, but to be honest, those are generally not our favorite type of customers to work with.
What, the ones that don't count?
Yeah, because if they don't count, because what ends up happening, honestly, it's just a lesson we learned the hard way. Because sometimes the intention's there. They're like, I found you online, I want to start. The lesson we learned is let's be the second software they choose. Let that first software take all the pain and resentment of like the staff was doing nothing.
Hello, POS.
Yeah, no, because the lesson there is this, and I always joke around. I say, but nothing is faster than doing nothing. So take the coolest tech you can think about. Let's take one of your good friends, Nomad Go. Cool software, quick plug there, Nomad Go. I love what they're doing. Right now, if I'm doing nothing, guess what? It's taking me 0 minutes a week. Now, Nomad Go comes and says, look how cool our tech is. Look, you just point it. Even if you tell me it takes 20 minutes a week, guess what? it's taken me 20 minutes. It took me 0 before.
Yeah.
I will resent you. So the lesson we learned there is if someone's not doing anything, stay away, let them use another tool, and then swoop in after, and usually it's a win. So that's number one. If they're not doing nothing, it's an uphill battle. So we try to, for us, something could be pen and paper, Excel. That's fine.
Get them hooked on data is what you're saying, honestly.
Yeah.
That's what happens, right?
If they're doing anything, it's a good fit. So even if they're like, I count on pen and paper, perfect, we'll work with them.
Yeah.
So that's number one. The second thing that I see a lot is most restaurants will obviously price their menu when they open. If I'm opening a restaurant tomorrow, of course, I'm going to price out my menu, figure out what I need to charge, whatever. Yep. And they might do it when they change their menu or change an item. But most restaurants are not doing it real time, and understandably so. Because let's say you price out a hamburger, well, your buns are changing every week, your avocado, your tomatoes, your beef, everything's changing literally on a weekly basis from Cisco, GFS, US Foods, whatever it may be, local suppliers. So what I find is that's the second biggest thing. It's like doing it once is fine, but they don't maintain it. So that's where something like Wisk, whether it's Wisk or a competitor, usually can help, because you scan your invoices and the invoices are updating the recipes in their account automatically. And because you're connected to the POS, you have the menu prices always up to date. You have the ingredients are always up to date. So you have an up-to-date cost of goods of every single item you're selling, which is really powerful in the restaurant world, because that's where you're making your margins. So if you're not making the right margin, I'm going to give you one last thing, because Chad, you mentioned this, and this is a good one, is like, what's something tactical? Here's another super tactical thing. You're making 50 cents less just to keep the math simple on your margarita or on a hamburger, right? It's not that restaurateurs won't catch it. It's just the time delay. So if I catch it in 6 weeks and I sell, 100 hamburgers a week, well, 100 hamburgers times 50 cents times 6 weeks, all of a sudden you're like, damn, I missed out on real money. Yeah, real money. And that typically happens over many different items. So the trick there is with something like Wisk, I'm sure other people do too, but you can set a cost alert. So the minute you're not making the margin you want on that burger because something increased, you get notified, you can adjust your price, you can adjust your portions, you can adjust the ingredients. And that's where, again, it's not that owners don't catch it, it's just a time delay for them to catch it is where the big opportunity is.
In your world, like in back office, I'll lump you in that, category. It's a great category to be in, right? Yeah. There's the things that you do, and then there's the endpoints you depend on to work, like the point of sale. There might be some other things you ingest or deliver information.
Supplier invoices.
Yeah, right. So I imagine one that you're probably doing. Well, one of the integrations are part of that's the EDI to the vendors for automated ordering, and so once the forecast comes out, then I believe you fire that order out automatically, or you say agree what that order is, and that goes to the vendor. The vendor then acknowledges, sends an advanced shipping notice, ASN, that comes over, and then you can track it from when it goes to your loading dock, and then you receive that inventory, right?
Yeah, not exactly, but pretty similar. Some version of that, right? Yeah, some version of that, exactly. Because the way it works is with the bigger suppliers, we'll have exactly that, an EDI integration, so Cisco, GFS, Foods. Exactly. So anything that restaurant is buying is being pulled into Wisk account, the ID, the code, the cost. So it makes it really nice, because then we map all the recipes. And then the ordering, we have some predictive ordering based on, their sales data, their consumption data, that kind of stuff, how much inventory they want to keep on hand, and it'll recommend what to order. And then it'll send that order via SMS or email to their rep. So the ordering part's kind of done through SMS and email, but the receiving is done through EDI. But that is a big one, and we kind of touched on it before. Beverage is great for cash flow, because instead of very realistic example, instead of ordering $10,000 a week of liquor wine, same sales, and I'm just start ordering $6,000 a week. It's like, cool, I got $4,000 I can work with now, versus not having that. So that's beverage. Food, we touch on it, but it's just waste. It's that $4,000 is not sitting on my shelf. It's going to go in the garbage because it's only going to last X amount of time. So super important. And I find that the biggest issue is sometimes I'll have a manager who finally gets a good grasp and that gets in the habit of what to order. Fine. But what happens when that manager's on vacation or there's staff turnover? You end up getting back that turbulence where now it's like someone's over and then 6 months in, they're good again. Staff turnover. So the big thing there is like, how do you keep that continuity? And something like Wisk doesn't have to be Wisk, but something where it's predictive ordering helps. So if there's turnover, the new manager come in and he or she has a kind of baseline. That's super important. If not every couple of months or couple of years, depending on your retention, you end up having these dips of just like really bad ordering cycles, which is more common than not.
You pull in local events and things that might affect your forecast, whether it's weather coming in, it's going to be summer sorry, I want to order more frosty mix than chili, winter more chili than frosty, or road closers, etc.
So funny enough, today, no. But funny enough, years ago, we actually went down that route to a certain extent, and we got some pretty cool stuff. We had so we're pulling exactly that weather, day of the week.
Was it a good idea, though, is the question. I think that.
It was good. I think for us, what ended up happening was like, there was still too many operational things we needed to do that like the predictive stuff was like a nice to have, but people were like, I want to see my actual and theoretical, there was too much core things that were missing, the way you handle modifiers in the POS and blah, blah, blah. So we ended up like kind of pausing that and just going back to the strong operational things. But at the time we ended up having an MVP exactly of that. And we I'll never forget this one because it caught the attention of a big group. The VP of that group, they had hundreds of restaurants, but was so intrigued, and I remember this because it was this specific data point, that when it rains, their group of restaurants, it was like a hamburger joint, but when it rains, they sell a lot more Stella. Can't tell you why. It was just a really cool correlation. So whenever it rained, they just sold a lot more Stella. And it was like, so that was the type of stuff we're getting, and predictive stuff of how many pizzas you'll do today. Yeah. So it was really, really cool. It just, for us, we're still lean. We're still kind of, bootstrapped. Sure. We had to kind of pivot and focus, but it is something that I think makes sense. And to give a shout out, there's some people doing more of just that, and clear COGS. Matt Wampler is a cool example, or Wampler. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. But Matt's really cool, and then got to see him at RLC, and so that might be something to look into. So people listening, clear COGS, and I had someone else. His name just slipping me, but 5by. Is it 5by? And now I'm blanking out on the name, but he also does predictive stuff. So that world is interesting. But what we've learned is it's like super important, but it's like 5-10% on top of the rest of the base. You know what I mean? So it's important, but restaurants typically first want to get their inventory under control, they're ordering, and then it's like, okay, great. Now I'd love to get much better, especially if you have 50, 100 locations at predicting and this and that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. When Angelo, we've been having such a good time. I've lost track of the time. I got a hard time. You guys keep going. You guys keep going.
No, yeah. So do you have to drop off?
I really do.
Oh, okay.
Oh, shit. Chad, you're awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
You're awesome, man. Thank you for those awesome
Before you go, Chad, let's get the group photo that we can just use for the thing real quick. We're going to do the squad cast. Wait, 3, 2. I'm doing it too soon. Now.
That's cool.
Awesome. That is some authenticity. We'll put that on the thumbnail. Thanks, Chad. And then we'll wrap up and we'll edit in the way that he was still here.
Cool.
Yeah, look at that. It's like
a theme
park ride. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. The squad shot.
Yes, I like that. Squad shot. Yay. Oh, I'm blurred, but I'm too happy. It's all good. Okay. So give that. And there we go. Before we hop off here, and the one thing I wanted to wanted to touch on is innovation, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny that I mentioned something that 6-7 years ago sounded like it was really important. I haven't heard boo about it since. Right. And it's almost like one of those things go, well, I'm sure you've been in a sale like that before. Does it do this? Yes. Does it do that? Yes. Does it do everything we absolutely ever needed? Yes. Is it blue? No. Well,
yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I've been there. Yeah. You're 100% right. That's very accurate.
But to that point, before we got rolling today, you were talking about an innovation that Wisk is bringing to market when it comes to speeding up how fast you can count and making it a little more agile. Because we know that when you take inventory, it's not a hands-free exercise.
Correct.
Right? You're probably lifting stuff, moving, getting in some nooks, checking things out, right? What'd you do around that might speed up some of that process that Wisk is testing and playing with?
So we've been beta testing something really cool. It's called Wisk Audio Inventory. And the idea is simple. The idea is you just go around, you just talk a lot. So your hands are free. Eventually we'd love to have a little recorder here or whatever, make it simple. But for now, it would just be on your phone and maybe it's in your pocket, whatever. But the idea is you're just here, you're talking out loud. So, hey, I'm in the stock room. I see 5 cans of Unico tomato, 500 ml. I see 7, whatever. I see 2 cases of avocado. So just speaking out loud. And then the idea is that we use AI to transcribe all that and match it. And this is where the magic happens. Because transcription, sure, you can find tools, right? Like there's podcast tools that could transcribe and whisper and whatever. There's tools. But where the magic happens is because they're scanning their invoices into Wisk from their suppliers, we're creating their item database, right? So avocados, chicken, tomatoes with the cost per unit of measurement, all the details. So when we have that audio transcription, the magic happens with matching it to their real items so we can generate their inventory report. So that's phase one. We've just been testing it. So far it's been well received. We're still beta testing, so we'll see where it goes, but so far it's been well received. Phase two, which I think would be really cool, would be like, instead of just audio, which is where we want to go, but we trimmed back to have an MVP, but is video. And so the idea is, meta glasses, or in the future, whatever glasses, but imagine you can just still talk out loud, but now you have the advantage of visually seeing. And that makes for two really cool things. One is maybe image recognition is that, but even still just using the audio, it's easier to double check because you have a video. But number two is it adds this layer of auditing. So if like an owner is like, how do we only have 3 cases of tomatoes? I know we should have more. But guess what? Imagine being able to click on that item and a little play button comes of that snippet when he counted the tomatoes.
Were they there?
Yeah, and you can actually see it. So that's where we see it going in the future, which I think will be super neat. But at the end of the day, our philosophy was always simple. We wanted to be the brain, so to speak, of the back of house COGS side. And we knew the input side would change. We knew people would cut, it wasn't a surprise. Like Nomad Go, love what they're doing. There's going to be drone stuff. There's going to be security camera stuff. It's only going to get better. Maybe you take a picture and boom, everything's done. Cool. Yep. But we know that's just the input. And so we're all excited. On the beverage side, it's Bluetooth spouts, it's this, it's that, whatever. Cool. But we knew what happens once that data comes in. And so we wanted to make the rest of that really good. So the ingesting of the data, the invoices, the point of sale integrations, the recipe management. How do you get all that stuff done? So in the future, as things get crazy and tech keeps improving, sure, the input will improve, but you'll still need the rest of that process. And so that's kind of where we're headed, but we're doing some fun stuff. That's probably the biggest one. But the other quick thing I wanted to say was just like, I think there's a lot of things in AI, and this is like a little tip for everyone out there as well, is there's a lot of things in AI that restaurants will appreciate that don't have to be so crazy. And so what I mean by that, so I'll give you some good ones. So
I was talking with a friend about this today.
The reason I think it's so crucial, because sometimes we go super deep, example, audio inventory, whatever, but sometimes the smallest things clients appreciate. So I'll give you an example. Auto suggesting categories. So when you scan all your invoices in, it's like an auto suggest that chicken is part of the meat category, or that Tito's is part of vodka, right? Like all these little, that's a super small one, right? Auto detecting duplicates, right? So like, hey, if you accidentally added 2 versions of a tomato, you can now merge them, whatever.
Right.
Auto suggesting recipes. So if you're working on a mojito, it could suggest that typically it takes 2 ounces of rum and whatever. Do you want to search which rum you have in stock? So there's a lot of like quality of life improvements that I think restaurants appreciate that sometimes don't have to be like 20 steps ahead. It could just be 1 step ahead. And if you think about it, like how much joy do you get, or I could speak for myself, of like auto drafting emails, like the fact that I can auto draft emails and then just review it, I love it. But many would consider that a super basic AI function. Fine, but it's still super valuable. So I would just say like sometimes we think 10 steps ahead and that's fine. But there's a lot of things that I think restaurants would appreciate that are just like maybe 1 step or 2 steps ahead.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think that, often we hear about the term fractional improvement, right? And I think fractional improvement and AI are meant to be together, right? Let's adopt a little bit each day or each week to what's the thing that's going to help move the needle, to get faster at things. All right, cool. I don't have to worry about scheduling, or I don't have to worry about setting up something. Or for example, I ran a creative script for a recent event where it did all the checking for me of the attendees and built some data sets for me.
That's awesome.
Like there's a lot of fun things. Or I have an agent that says, you're my marketing agent. I built him to where it knows Ink Tank inside and out. I fed it all our marketing materials and documents, right? Here's a good one. Sorry, I'm just going to pivot.
No, it's good. It's good. I love this stuff.
How about a discovery call? You run Fireflies in the discovery call. It takes full transcription.
Yeah.
Then you feed Fireflies into your AI, who's your proposal writer, and it writes a proposal exactly for everything you heard that leader say and to the letter. Even using a language back at them, right?
I love
or
that.
How about this? You go to GPT, and let's say you're a restaurateur. You have an important presentation you're going to do for, I don't know, maybe it's a catering pitch, right? To a group.
Yeah.
You can literally ask GPT to write a AI prompt for beautiful AI. I need a deck for the following company, something.com. We're going to attempt the following sale, .com.
Yeah.
And here's the menu items, and here's what we do. I need a 7-page PowerPoint presentation with animations, graphs, and everything. Go. Right? plug that into Beautiful AI, and you're almost 90% done. You just have to change a couple of images and tweak, and the whole presentation is done.
I love that. Right. Yeah, I've tried Gamma for the presentation stuff. It's done some pretty good magic. But I'm with you, and the truth is that's why, like, I agree with you. It's like there's so many quality of life improvements that I think people could do, and sometimes it doesn't have to be these crazy things. And I'll give you just one good one that we've been doing internally is like sometimes we have an idea in Wisk of how to improve the product, but typical tech companies, you know, you got your product person, you got your UX, you got this, you got that. Now I don't need any of that red tape. And I'll give you an example. The other day I had an idea of how to improve our ordering process in our Wisk web portal. What did I do? Took a screenshot, put it into Claude.ai. It gave me really good recommendation, and then generated a better screenshot. I said, can you give me code for that to implement in a coding tool, in a prompt coding tool or whatever? Took that, put that in vo.dev. It gave me an amazing prototype that was clickable with that new UI. And then all of a sudden I go to my team and it's like all the red tape's gone. And I'm like, guys, this is what I envision. Then they can push back and we can have a really fruitful conversation instead of spending weeks on like prototyping and designing or whatever. It's like, boom, in literally 20 minutes, working prototype, let's chat through it. So that's just one example, but I think there's so much out there. So I just encourage people, get creative, have fun with it, and try to solve your actual problems, right? Don't worry about what people are doing. Think about what you're doing. If you're, to your point, you're sending proposals every day. Hey, I wonder if I could make these more custom and whatever, right? That's where the ideas come. You're now the orchestrator of your world. And so the magic to me happens in the ideas behind the orchestrating or the prompting, not necessarily the other way around. So I think that's where
I think you nailed the nail on the head, or hit the nail on the head. It's figure out the problem you want to solve, not, hey, do you have a hot cup of AI? I don't know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
For some reason, I got old George Bush in my head, popping his head of the Oval Office going, hey, anybody got a hot cup of AI I can borrow? I don't know what I want for it, but I'm sure thirsty. Right? That seems like a lot of CEOs
That's
today.
how it is, yeah.
What's our AI? What are we doing? I don't know. What problem are we solving?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Dude, you're awesome. It's hard to wrap these up because I can talk forever, and you also have a good gift of gab too. But you have a big business to run, and just to circle back, super honored that you want to spend time with us, invest time here. Super proud to know you.
That's just fun.
And for what you do for the industry. I love podcasting because one, I'm a nerd, a geek, and I love to ham it up. And to come back full circle again to our first conversation about why we do this. I don't know if I want to tell anybody this because there's a secret in it that I found is really valuable, but I will. Yeah. And the secret is it is a fireman's ladder, or it's a ladder, and it's an orange vest.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is there's that theory that if you have a ladder, you can walk into any building and nobody will stop you. If you have an orange vest, you can walk in any building and no one will stop you.
Yep. I've seen some videos with the ladder, and it's pretty accurate. People walk in a festival with it. So
walk in a movie, walk in literally anything. Well, God, if they have that, they must belong here, right? That's also the insidious secret of podcasting and business, is that if we have that microphone, we can talk to people that would normally have a wall up and say, listen, I don't want to buy anything right now. Oh, you want to tell my story? Cool. Let me tell you. Thank you for the favor. By the way, what can I do for you? Like,
right. That's true.
This is a side effect. It's not why we did it, but I'm like, holy crap. If we're helping people get there, they actually want to help us get where we're going next too. And they're not trying to stop us from talking to them anymore.
Yeah. Totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So.
No, I totally agree. It's a really, really nice side effect. And we've seen it too. It's just like people are more open if you're just like, hey, you want to chat about your business versus if you're like, hey, want to hop on a demo? They're like, block.
So, I think it's a kinder, gentler way to do business. And in turn, you get to figure out if you want to play with these people by how they talk. Yeah. Like you said earlier today. Hopefully everybody that's listening today goes, I can talk to Angelo, even if I could find some stuff out. And guess what? That's how commerce happens now.
Totally.
It's not the big pitch. If you guys are in sales and you're listening, stop sending the LinkedIn request, and 5 seconds later, let me solve your problem. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Find out how people are doing. Find out what's going on. Be genuinely interested in who they are as a person, a business, a people, whatever it is, but stop selling your stuff. I know it's counterintuitive.
No, I agree with you. You're spot on with that.
All right.
I love that.
Dude,
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. This is fun. Honestly, this is fun. Spent a nice hour together, so this is great. I appreciate you. I love what you guys are doing. Keep it up, both you and Chad, and then the rest of the team.
Yep.
I'm sure I'm going to be seeing you at more conferences.
Yeah, so where are you going to be next? Just that's how we.
Honestly, this is what I got to decide this week. Talking to the team, because there's a few coming up. I like NRA. I know is coming up sooner than later, so we got to make a decision there. It's just such a FS Tech. I think that one for sure, especially because in Orlando, not too far. I'm in Miami, so that one FS Tech 99% chance. Yes.
Feels NRA, like RFDC is your show too.
Yes, most likely. NRA, I'd like to go. And then there's one more I was looking at, but the name just slipped me. And funny enough, I'm talking
QSR to the guy. Evolution?
Was it? It might be.
It might be Danny Klein's show up there, QSR Evolution in Atlanta.
There's one coming up in... Danny Klein's great, so actually I should probably look into that one, QSR. But no, there's one, I literally was just speaking to him. I have a call with him tomorrow. And a lot of our friends in common are going. So, like, I know it's a pretty good show. It kind of reminds me of, like, a smaller version of an RLC. I got to find the name. It's driving me nuts.
Well, let me know, because I'm curious now, too.
Yeah, I'll pull him. I'll let you know after this call. I have it in my email somewhere because he messaged me today. Let's see.
Well, don't pull it. We'll get it later. So everybody,
we'll get it.
You'll look in the notes and comments afterwards. Perfect. We'll provide it there. Stay tuned. Please subscribe to the Ink Tank GTM or ChatGTM podcast. It's been a fantastic pleasure, and this is where I'm doing my Oscar down at because I'm terrible. I'll keep going. And Angelo is equally bad, which is why I love him. But this has been Angelo Esposito, the CEO of Wisk AI. They have a fantastic solution. They are just a good group of people to work with. And what I believe is if you're trying to crack a problem and solve something that Angelo's solution might do, give them a call, because what I do know about Angelo is if it doesn't fit or align with what your business is, he'll point you to the right people in the right direction. He's not here to take your money. He's here to figure out how to save you money. And if it's with him, great. And if not, he is also really okay with that. And so please talk to him. He's one of the good ones. Did I miss anything?
That's awesome. Thank you for having me. Big thanks. Absolutely. This is awesome. Appreciate you.
All right, guys, this has been ChatGTM episode 21. That's a wrap.